that he is, quote, one of them per se, but at the same time, he has had to be confronted with the problems in his theory at some point, and he's not changing it, you know.
Right, right. Well, I mean, I don't know. Do I trust him? Not as far as I can throw him. Do I think that he truly believes what he's saying? I think probably, and he probably knows that there's money to be made with it. But I mean, tell everybody about the Pleiadian thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess he definitely, I mean, I could play that clip, but basically, I mean, I guess I could play it. I don't know if I could say it faster than I could play it or whatever. I have it pretty well edited. This doesn't really do it justice. In the movie that's going to come out, it really shows a lot about what builds up to it and everything, but this is important, I think. I'll just say it. Basically, he he had this experience with extraterrestrials or UFOs, seeing them when they just emanated fear. He just kept on saying that, oh my gosh, they just emanated this fear. Basically, a lot of weird stuff happened, real satanic stuff happened that night to his friends, and a lot of weird satanic stuff happened to the car, and a lot of stuff that makes a lot of sense if you've really looked at some of what people are saying they're experiencing with these alien encounters, and they, to me, mirror demonic encounters almost in most cases, and in also most cases it seems like these people are in the process or have been opening, quote, doors for this that end of things. But anyway, so he goes back there after all this really, I mean, all I can say is satanic stuff happened to his friends in this hotel room. He goes back to that spot in the desert like a few months later and rents a car, gets in the back of it and says, hey, I know you're there. I'll just want you to know I will do whatever you want. You can use me, open the doors for me, do whatever you need to do with me. I'll do it. But just don't scare me in my bedroom or abduct me, and I'll do it. So then later on he goes to a psychic weeks, months later. She sits him down and is talking to somebody. He's like, who you're talking to? He's like, I'm talking to those who brought you here. He's like, what, brought me to your house? He's like, no. She's like, no, they brought you to this planet. It's like, they're Pleiadians, and they brought you here to basically be their emissary and all this stuff. And he's like, oh, okay. And then she says, and they also told me that you rented a car and went out to the desert and sat on the back of the hood and you put your feet in the back seat and said that you would do whatever they wanted you to do as long as they didn't, scare them in your bedroom and whatever, and that they were going to use you and channel through you to do all this stuff. And so in one sense, I think he does believe that he is helping the Pleiadians. And I think that in a lot of ways, that's just Satan's gig, I mean, he uses whatever he can get people to think he is or whatever. In most cases, he probably uses pride. A lot of people I know have, quote, psychic powers, or were just so prideful about their psychic powers, I mean, it's like, yeah, well, I don't think it's you, but, how are you going to tell them that? Anyway, I guess I'll finish up in saying it like this. I don't think that he is, quote, working for them as we see the infrastructure, real New World Order, but at the same time, he's working for them, who I believe are really behind the New World Order. And he's, so who's to say that, I don't know.
Right. Well, I don't know. My two biggest gripes with him, really, I mean, and there's a long list, but the fact that he was initiated in the Great Pyramid, I mean, that to me says an awful lot. And the Jordanus Maximus thing. And what was the guy's name that you had the debate with, Matt?
Yeah, Matt.
And he was saying that, well, just because you use a name doesn't mean anything because his show is 33rd Degree or whatever, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he's involved in this stuff. It just means that he's trying to expose it. But with Maxwell and that Jordanus Maximus thing, he doesn't even have, the gall to sit there and tell you, well, yeah, I picked this name because I'm influenced by Blavatsky. He's just going to sit there and cop out and say, yeah, Rabbi just happened to point this out years later. So, it's definitely hiding something. And
Well, the thing that makes me not care, I do think this documentary that I'm going to put out here in just a day or whatever is really so amazing that nobody has caught on to this yet. It's going to really affect this situation, I think, and his thing. And the thing that makes me not care one bit about it is because he is the most blasphemous guy I've ever heard talk. I mean, if you watch some of his stuff, it's just pure, just demonic blasphemy. And he's using, and it sounds just almost true enough. And the entire truth movement is literally believing absolute, unfounded blasphemy. It's crazy.
Right, and it's like what I'm looking in the chat right now. It's what Ricky said. It's a whole lot of misinformation that comes along with the truth. You know, they give you just enough to suck you in, and then, oops, you accidentally are now damned to hell because you believed, you know, all of what we said, all of what I said, instead of just, you know, thinking rationally and logically about what I'm saying. You can't be. Everything the guy says is based in modern-day English. If you're so unlearned to understand that not only are there other languages today that it wouldn't hold up under scrutiny with, let alone the actual languages where these, you know, verses and quotes and whatnot, things that he's playing with actually come from, it just, you can't possibly take a lot of what he says seriously. And yeah, it's totally blasphemous.
It is. I mean, here, listen to him talk about this one. I'll just show you what I mean.
Pillsbury cooking oil called Crisco. Crisco is Christo. Christo is Christ. So Jesus Christ is Jesus the oil.
Wait, hold on. That's
what it means.
That's
Jesus
not really the blasphemous part. Actually, the blasphemous part next. I think I just cut these clips a little too short. But obviously, oil is not right. It would be anointing. It would be like saying the word for covered means with chocolate, because sometimes things that are covered are with chocolate. But it goes on like that. It's really ridiculous, a lot of it. And nobody's calling him on this. I mean, I'll just have to wait for the rest of that. I'm sure we can get into some other stuff here in a minute, because I'm really going to cover this pretty well in the little thing. But I'll say that I don't know if I will cover the 10 thing, because what was that again? What's the title of that? The 10 seed groups.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
10 seed groups, and she goes as far as to say, and I wanted to touch on this a little bit. Basically, that these groups will enable, with new sciences, which would be the sciences that we're dealing with today, a new approach to divinity, with new education and new modes of handling the economic situation and political problems to precipitate and further the growth of the kingdom of God. So when you hear these groups, these so-called Christian people that for no reason at all believe that somehow they're powerful enough or that it's their responsibility to build Christ's kingdom on earth, basically the Zionists, well, that's what they're doing, and they're going to come down. I mean, I look at this in many ways like these people are set to fail, and they're going to be, this is completely my opinion here, they're going to be chewed up and spit out at the end. They're going to be used. It's going to be like the way you were saying, George Bush, you know, he represents the Christians, and, well, when we find out, or when the masses find out, that all the stuff that's been going wrong in the world is resting on decisions and things that these people, these quote-unquote Christian Zionists or Jewish Zionists or whatnot, have been doing to bring about the end times, basically, then people are going to say, oh, man, all these prophecies were bogus. Seeing all this stuff fulfilled is bogus, because these people have been doing it behind the scenes and creating these scenarios right along. And then I think you're going to have the answer show up. I mean, that's my take on it. So you're going to get the fact that these things came true, but you're going to get a different twist on it. And I know that probably sounds very strange, but
no, I mean that's what has to happen. I mean, he has to make it look like I'm speaking of Satan now. He would have to make it look like it was his idea. It's like, oh no, I was planning all that stuff. You know, it's like, well, come on now. And I think that it is, and probably at that point, I don't know if people will even be coherent enough to be like, hey, what was prophesied 2,000 years ago, in fact 3,000 years ago, the Old Testament and everything is happening now. I don't even know if people are going to wake up to see that in time. But if they do, they'll have that to fall back on. But I do think that at that point, it'll be so muddled with whatever they're going to do with this alien card or whatever. It's going to be such a different world as far as in the minds of men after that happens.
Right. Well, it's like, we've had it beat into our heads. The Antichrist is going to come out of the European Union, and he's going to show up, and everyone's going to love him, and he's going to, everyone's going to have to take a mark in their hand. And it's like, that's totally played out, and everyone is looking for that. Everyone in the world that knows, even people who aren't Christians, have seen movies dealing with it or have talked to people. They know what 666 is. It's got to be something way, way, way bigger than that. Otherwise, it won't work. Everybody will see it and see right through it. But, you want to talk about the alien thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I talked about this in last night's podcast, and I had a handful of really very funny emails today, and I saw one was forwarded to you, basically like, what the hell? Vatican, it's okay to believe in aliens. And basically you have this chief astronomer, and I believe this guy has made comments about evolution and stuff before too. But he basically said that it's okay to believe in aliens. It doesn't contradict faith in God, which I don't think it does, and I don't think you think it does either. But what the guy uses here is a key New Age term, and you can just look for Benjamin Creme talking about this stuff. The interview in this Vatican newspaper was entitled "The Extraterrestrial is My Brother," which, you get the Space Brothers all through the New Age movement. Space Brother this, Space Brother that. Oh, when are the Space Brothers going to come? They live on a higher plane of existence than us, a higher, astral plane or whatever. They can transverse through universes and this and that. So, I don't know what you want to say about it, but I just it actually blew my mom's mind because I talked to her about this stuff, and she told me point blank, I constantly try to tell myself that you're not crazy. And when I saw this one, it really kind of validated the fact that maybe you're not. So I don't know if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I know. It's the exact same. I think the weird thing is not so much what they said. Like you said, I think what they said was more or less, true. I think there's some theological issues that maybe, one could argue that they can't coexist. But I think just generally speaking, yeah, they can coexist. It doesn't exclude it. But like you said, it's the idea, number one, that they use the Space Brother terms, that if the aliens show up, they are our brothers. Everybody got that. And then the fact that it went global. I've got emails. Granted, I get, emails from if something like this happened, that people would be like, hey, what, are you crazy? You're actually serious, But then again, it must have just been everywhere because people that don't normally look for this kind of thing, it must have been on all the, Yahoo News and the AOL dum-dums, news thing,
Yeah,
it's
definitely. It was definitely on Drudge. It was on the Drudge Report. So,
But and then you have they are. I think. It's definitely probably still going to be a slow and steady thing, but I think that slow and steady pace has been going for a while now too. Well, I think a lot of the it almost got commonplace there for a second to have UFOs reported seriously by the news and like, oh yes, we don't know what they are, and they always make sure to tell you that it was firemen and policemen, and everybody agrees this was real, and so. And then they also simultaneously float the Air Force said it was a jack-o'-lantern or something stupid,
yeah,
and so everybody could, so they could, all the conspiracy boards can be like, debunking it and feel like they've done something. It's like, it couldn't be a jack-o'-lantern because jack-o'-lanterns don't fly, and then it's like, I don't know, it's obvious, seems like to me.
Yeah, and then you get. I guess that was yesterday when that came out, and then yesterday we had, this is from the Sun, British X-File papers revealed And you get this whole thing about the British putting out their, all their classified documents on UFOs. That just happened to come out yesterday, too.